Shai, Brakti Hawa, Brakti Al Shai, Koholoim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakwadas. This is an additional epistle to the 12 tribes of Israel. First Peter 2 and 9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a particular people, that ye should slew forth the praises of him whom hath you called out of darkness into the marvelous light.
With Catholic social teaching, and he was trying to convince Catholics, get on board the Hitler train. He later recanted. To his credit, he actually recanted before the Nazis lost the war, unlike a lot of Nazis who conveniently changed their minds after they lost. Joseph Pieper recanted during the war, and he actually ran to the publisher and said, "Stop the presses! Don't publish that book." It was too late, but he stopped them from making a second edition. As we read this over the next couple episodes, I think you'll see that there's some pretty interesting commentary on National Socialism, as well as nationalism and socialism in general. I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts about the use and misuse of those words, but I promise I put a lot of thought into this, and I think you'll find this interesting. So we'll start with the preface to the English edition. This was originally written in German. And right here on the first page, the author, Joseph Pieper, basically writes down, this is my thesis. I always love when authors do this. Culture depends for its very existence on leisure, and leisure, in its turn, is not possible unless it has a durable and consistent living link with the cultus, with divine worship. So he's saying, here's culture, it depends on leisure, and leisure depends on the divine. Now, oh, hi guys, welcome back to Arthur Greenwood Unfiltered for another episode of Arthur Greenwood Unfiltered. Today we're talking about this book, Leisure, the Basis of Culture, by Joseph Pieper, one of the top 10 aristocratic books of all time. Something I talk a lot about on this channel is the Puritan work ethic, and why it's basically the worst thing ever, and it totally ruined Western culture.
Proverbs 2 and 5. Then thou shalt understand, then thou shalt understand fear of the Lord Yahweh and find the knowledge of God,
And a lot of people hear that, and they get kind of confused, and they think, okay, well, what's the problem with working hard? I mean, shouldn't we contribute to society?
Proverbs 1 7. Fear of the Lord Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and his instructions. So, for the first thing in understanding aristocracy and just knowledge in general starts with fear of the Lord. In the same thing, the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of discipline, comes from fearing your parents. From when you don't understand, from whatever you don't know, let the fear of the Lord fill the rest of the room.
And provide a good life for our kids and make money so we can take care of our parents. And of course, that's all true, but they're kind of missing the point. And I think I finally found a book that really perfectly encapsulates why they're missing the point and why the Puritan work ethic really is bad and should be replaced with the aristocratic leisure ethic. And for that reason, here at the front of the book, I wrote that this book should really be called How to Live Like an Aristocrat. It's basically a complete guide to how to have the philosophy, the habits, the outlook on life, and even the way of thinking about the world and how we perceive objects. It's a very philosophical book, but basically how to be an aristocrat of the soul, how to ride the tiger, if you will. Joseph Pieper is an interesting guy. He's a Catholic theologian from Germany. Germany, what was going on around there about the time that Joseph Pieper was alive? Well, fan of the Nazis. In fact, he wrote this whole text about how, get on board the Hitler train. Nazis who conveniently changed their minds after they lost. Joseph Pieper recanted during the war, and he actually ran to the publisher and said, "Stop the presses! Don't publish that book!" It was too late, but he stopped them from making a second edition. As we read this over the next couple episodes, I think you'll see that there's some pretty interesting comments to those words, but I promise I put a lot of thought into this, and I think you'll find this interesting. So we'll start with the preface to the English edition. This was originally written in German. And right here on the first page, the author, Joseph Pieper, basically writes down, this is my thesis. I always love when authors do this. Culture depends for its very existence on leisure, and leisure, in its turn, is not possible unless it has a durable and consistent living link with the cultus, with divine worship. So he's saying, here's culture, it depends on leisure, and leisure depends on the divine. Now, some of you are probably in the sort of Nietzschean camp, or lots of you are agnostic, I know, so you might hear that and kind of get turned off. Love when
Leisure, free time, disposable time. So your free time connected with your religious time. Yeah, I certainly agree. The opportunity to do something, chance, occasion, opportune time. That's really what it is, man. So that's why the women, they don't want to do shit. Like women think, oh, da 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 da. Even if I have two jobs, no matter how much three job, you know, I don't have to wash the dishes, yada yada yada. But at the same time, it's like yeah. I mean, you working, you shouldn't have to do it all the time or da 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 da. But hey, even if you do it, it still saves you a lot more money than looking online and buying something because in men and leisure time, it really allows us to grow and sit. Honestly, you really got to keep a woman busy because, especially in Babylon the Great, when you don't have the power to veto her death, a split decision will drastically affect her life for the rest of her life, and everyone suffers. But women never think about it. You know, um, when when people's lives turn in the family, she's never gonna think about how that loan affected it. She's just gonna think about her struggles that she signed up for. You know, how people should come and fix the problems, but they don't want to get under their leadership. So now you just gotta fix women's problems, who creating more problems because they don't actually are looking for a different way of thinking. They just look for more money to fix problems that they're just gonna keep creating because of that same approach. So, but the man's leisure time, women always just trying to fill your time, but it's only filled with Esau time. You know, no leisure time brought us into the truth. When we was in school, we had no knowledge. Women might think, "Well, you was smart, you was in school," but yeah, I didn't know nothing in school. You know, but only through this leisure. You know,
do this. Culture depends for its very existence on leisure, and leisure, in its turn, is not possible unless it has a durable and consistent living link with the cultus, with divine worship. So he's saying, here's culture, it depends on.
Exodus 16:23, and he said unto them that this is which what the Lord Yahweh has said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will take to bake, and seed that which ye seed, and that which remaineth over you lay up to keep until tomorrow. Exodus 16:26, 6 days ye shall gather it on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath in it. There shall, let's see, okay, let's just, okay, Exodus 20:8. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Exodus 20:10. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord Yahweh. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy servant that is within thy gates. Uh, Exodus 20:11. For in 6 days the Lord had made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all them that are which therein. The rest and rest the seventh day. Therefore the Lord Yahweh blessed the Sabbath and hallowed it. You know?
Leisure, and leisure depends on the divine. Now, some of you are probably in the sort of Nietzschean camp, or lots of you are agnostic, I know, so you might hear that and kind of get turned off. But I think the way Joseph Pieper understands religion is much broader than how we understand religion. He's not so much talking about doctrines or dogmas or any particular church structure.
A bond to monastic vows, whatever monastic means. Action of, you know, basically living under religious vows. So, religion, state of life, bond, uh, bound by monastic vows. The state of life being bound by monastic vows, man, and that's not religion in the sense of the world, because these people aren't bound to any vows. These people are bound to institutions, you know. Also, action or conduct indicating a belief in the divine power or reverence to desire or please it. People don't have a desire to please the Lord. They have a desire to the Lord to accept. You know, and have a personal relationship with the Lord. Piety, devotion directly from the Latin to respect of the sacred, reverence for God. Moral obligations. Uh, it's divine service, a service, observation, religious faith. cult. To bind. What binds you? Read tar. Um, regular to re again, to bind again, to bind fast. So what you're binding to. Okay, there you go. Bro, they be changing so much. But in English, particular system of faith, worshiping the divine being in the sense of recognition of an allegiance to a manner of life due to a higher power not seen. I feel like they be changing so much. But you're dealing with divine worship and was it communal rituals. I just feel like they be changing this so much. To gather, oh no, that's lecture. But cult, that's really what it is. Cult has made a loaded term now, but it's deep belief. And it's really supposed to pull you away from the world. Religious community. So monastic vows, in the sense of life, a monastic vows due to obligation, bond, reverence. So what you reverence, what binds you, restricts you, what are you forced to do? To some people, the only monastic vow is accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. That's all you gotta do. Other than that, you can never be saved. Just for some, the monastic vow is really, to Jesus, and you get baptized. People can say, "Oh, you act like you're saved now," da 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 da. But at the same time, when I was a Baptist, uh, everything is really, no, everything's based on the water, not me being baptized by the water of the Word and being real. Not being part of, not being washed away, being baptized by the water of the word and being reborn, through the new, not through the new water, not through the water of the womb, but through the water of the spirit, to change and to come back into the manner and the customs of the Israelite and their heritage. No, I'm coming into the manner of, people could say, oh, you act like I'll say no, but back then, no matter what I could have did, I could never be saved because I wasn't washed by uh by the Edomite waters, by the waters by Edomite, or by the waters of an Israelite or the heathen ordained by Jacob. Imagine being baptized into the covenant of the Israelites, only made between um the fathers and the blood, pertaining onto that covenant, and then a heathen.
He's more talking about the sense of the divine, the sense that there's something more, there's something sacred, the idea of ritual. And Joseph Pieper says that life itself should be a ritual, that society depends on rituals. And rituals, holidays, festivals, these are times where we take a step back from the ordinary, from the mundane and the routine, and we see the world in all its grandeur and its sublime beauty. And I think that's something that even a Nietzschean or an agnostic can agree with. Let's continue. The word cult in English is used exclusively, or almost exclusively, in a derivative sense. We talk about cults, they're scary, they indoctrinate you. But here it is used, along with worship, in its primary sense. It means something else then, and something more than religion. It really means fulfilling the ritual of public sacrifice. Public sacrifice? What are we, heathens? Are we Aztecs or Vietnamese? I mean, this is barbaric.
And that's what we do, man. We fulfill the ritual of public sacrifice, that humiliation sacrifice, you know, of being in the truth, homage, worship, especially in this world, is foolish, man. It's scary to even just be a Christian in the world, man. So now you coming in full manner as an Israelite, standing on the principles, you know.
You don't sacrifice things, but he actually says that sacrifice,
Is religion not a cult? Is the black identity not a cult? And if you're not part of the black identity, we don't fuck with you. You know, even if you came from immigrant, you come to America, you be running black, you join in the cult. It's either fuck you niggers, man. You need to be so grateful, licking the bootstraps, or man, we into this blackness, man. Fuck the Edomites, man.
ritual of sacrifice is the core of civilization. I think he's right. That is a notion which modern, contemporary man associates almost exclusively and unconsciously with uncivilized, primitive peoples, and with classical antiquity. For that very reason, it is of the first importance to see that the cultus, now as in the distant past, in the primary set. Oh, I screwed that up. The cultus, now as in the distant past, is the primary source of man's freedom, independence, and immunity within society. And I wrote in the margins, worship is more than religion. It is ritual. This is not something savage and barbaric. It is essential to liberty. Okay, that all sounds very obscure and confusing, but basically what he means is sacrifice doesn't have to be sacrificing an animal. You don't have to literally slit a lamb's throat. Rather, you can sacrifice your time. You can sacrifice one day of the week and say, okay, this day is sacred. I'm not going to work on this day. Or you can sacrifice Christmas and say, okay, this is a day for focusing on the divine and on family and on ritual, and I'm not going to work on that day. We as a society do this. We have holidays where we all take the day off work, and an economist might look at that and say, well, that's inefficient. You could be doing so many productive things. But Joseph Pieper says that's the point. You're sacrificing those gains. You're sacrificing the opportunity cost of Christmas so that you can have Christmas. And that's a worthwhile bargain, because you need to have times that you're free from work, that you're free from the economy. That you're free from your schedule, the demands of mundane life. And there's a really good bit in here where he says that the medieval peasant celebrating Christmas is far more free than the modern worker who goes into work on Christmas, because the medieval peasant is still human. He has to work on the farm and provide a tithe to the king, but he's his own man.
Acts 7:48. Howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, saith the prophet. So if he don't dwell in temples made with hands, where does he dwell? He dwells in man.
He's not a worker, he's a man who works. There's a crucial difference there. His identity is not found in his job, his identity is found in his humanity. And on holidays, you take a step back from your job and from everything else, and you just focus on being a human in relation to the divine, in relation to your community, in relation to nature. And that's what's so beautiful about religion. We'll continue. Among the bona non utilia sed honesta.
Hey, Revelations 21:3. I heard a great voice from the heavens saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. So when God is saying, hey, I'm with these people are my God, the tabernacles, man. So the sacrifices that we're putting in tabernacles, us, primarily starting with the men.
The goods that are not useful but are noble, which are at home in the realm of freedom, in its innermost circle indeed is philosophy, the philosophical act, which must be understood in the traditional sense of Plato, Aristotle, Augustine, and Aquinas, as they understood it. As you guys know, I have some mixed feelings on Aristotle and Augustine and Aquinas, but I like Plato. I like Plato. Well, I like his political theories. I don't like his actual philosophy. But regardless, I do get what people are saying. You say, we need to return to the old way of viewing philosophy as something that's good in itself. It doesn't serve an end. You don't major in philosophy so that you can get a job. You don't major in philosophy so that you can. Yes, philosophy majors are unemployed.
First Peter 2:25, and ye are also living stones, um, and are building up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to thy power through Yahushai Mashiach. You know?
Haha, we all get the joke. But that's okay because you don't study the good, you don't study the true and the beautiful so that you can get a job. That's cringe, that's lame. That's for normal people. Philosophers pursue philosophy for its own sake. It's this very aristocratic view of philosophy that men like Plato and Augustine and Aquinas very much embodied. Okay, here, this is what I was saying about religion. I wrote in the margin, veneration is not reserved for God. Sorry, Protestants, I know you guys think that you can only venerate God and that, bow.
Psalms 82:6. And I've said, ye are gods. Let's do the NIV. Uh, I said, ye are gods, and ye are sons of the Most High. So how to become aristocratic? And let's look that up. The best to rule. Isn't it crazy? It's it's the eugenicists versus the aristocratics. Let's do aristocracy, a government made by who are the best citizens, the best of its kind. You know. So and who's the better kind than the Israelites? The best citizens. You know, the best, the most noblest, the most bravest, the most virtuous. Who defines? I mean, obviously, who defines this more bigger than Yahushai? Obviously, he's the top of the top, the top of the cream of the cream of the cream of the top. But who defines this more than the Israelites? And Yahushai on the top. You know, because that's where we get the knowledge from. First of all, how to become aristocratic, coming to the truth. Women feel that you're aristocratic, especially the heathen. They feel it. They feel it. You know, Eve hated, so it's just gonna be disgusting. But especially from the heathen women, you're gonna feel it. Veneration is not only for saints. Ecclesiasticus 44:1, and now let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begot us. Never dishonor thy mother and thy father. You know what I mean? We were watching, bro. If you hate your father, you're just gonna be accepting abuse, and an abusive woman will make you love your father, bro. And I mean, obviously, you need to understand just based off the truth or whatever, but it's also like in the same context. I mean, you're not gonna understand. You're not gonna forgive him. You're not gonna understand until the curses, but uh, you know, like it's not necessarily only about your parents, really about the position. It doesn't matter who my father was, what type of, could have been the biggest murder, whatever. Because at the end of the day, could have been the worst person, worst Israelite in the world. At the end of the day, he's better off than the best Edomite because he's gonna be in the kingdom ruling. He's gonna be forgiven and perfect in perfection. And no matter how good the Edomite looks in this life, no matter what happened in this life, I mean, no one's perfect, but you know, he gonna pay for the sins of his past and the reincarnation and his forefathers. You know, so it don't matter if the Edomite's dad is the number one dad in the world. He's perfect to them. It don't matter, man. If he's an Edomite, I mean, obviously it's going to be manifest in his character, but even if he, he's still going to get that judgment. But it's the position you occupy, so it don't matter. Don't matter who these parents are. Don't matter what their parents do for them. It don't matter. These people, their parents are giving them slavery, or they inherited lies. But only you. Don't matter who your father was, a deadbeat. Even if an Israelite just busting nuts out here, you know, he's giving Israelites life, and then the Israelites will come back into the covenant, and they will be God's, and they will be God's people. So it don't, you just gotta forgive your father, bro. Just at least you need to value the position that they hold, because hey, you're going off too. You're the same. Don't matter. You might be in this war. You might be better than him, but according to the Lord, come to the standard of the Lord. You're equally going off in your own way.
Is list in grandest sense, but veneration, showing respect, even bowing, even praying can be given to saints, to great men, to your parents. This is a very old world way of viewing veneration, but in China or Japan, you would venerate the ancestors. The father wasn't just your dad; he was the pater familias. He was the head of the household. He was.
And that's what that begot famous man. So even if your father is an inferior man, even if he's an abusive man, but if he was rich, you would at least be like, all right, at least he inherited that. At least you got off inheritance, and that he came from a line. That's how you got to see it. Even if he is who he is, whatever. He just occupies so much value coming from the line that I got to be here. I got to come into this truth and the faith. How can you hate an Israelite father, man?
An ancestor still living, and for that reason, you have to show him respect.
Lack of understanding.
Because of his position, regardless of whether you like him or your personal relationship, what really matters is that he occupies that sacred position of fatherhood, and he deserves veneration. So do your ancestors. So does your king. You bow to the king. Sorry, liberals. You need to bow to the king. You need to bow to your ancestors. That's not pagan, or if it is, I don't care. Pagan Christianity. There's something to be said for venerating the world in its beauty, and that doesn't take away from our veneration of God. It only contributes to it because God created all this. So when we're venerating this, or our king, or our father, or our ancestors, we're really venerating God because he's at the top of that great chain of being. And every
Exodus 22:28, thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. So you're a God amongst gods. The Lord, anointed you. The man lied about killing Saul. You know, David had to kill him. You don't. You know, you gotta have a certain level of respect over the rule of your people, and that's why we see the fault of Babylon the Great. They have no respect, and it's just Esau creating hell to his own system.
everything else comes from him, flows from him, derives its power from him. Okay. The philosophical act is a fundamental relation to reality, a full personal attitude, which is by no manner or means at the disposal of the ratio. This is a very pre-modern position. In modern times, we think of philosophy as purely a logical, rational thing. You just analyze the chain of arguments. This is how Bertrand Russell thinks about philosophy. Well, he's wrong. Philosophy is more than that. It's an attitude of the soul. There's intuition involved. There's direct perception involved. Heidegger would say that you have to reach beyond. Okay, I haven't actually read Heidegger in much detail.
And that's why Eve just trying to work you. Women try to use you as a workhorse to keep trying to build, but at the end, use them to build. To give yourself free time. And I mean, you can't even, you can't really do that, bro. But in this time, they ruin your life, and use your work, and they're just trying to get all these big loans, these big. No, use your time to free up your time. Use money to free up your time. Women just be saving, be saving big money for big status jump. Fuck status. Let's build security. Women claim they want security, but they trade security for status. That's the funny thing.
But I think this is what he says. You have to reach beyond the names and the words, and you have to experience the thing as such. You have to experience the world as such, being as such. And you can't do that by just rationally analyzing it through syllogisms. It's a position of the soul. It is perhaps only in this way that it's possible to understand how it was that Plato's philosophical school, the Academy in Athens, was at the same time a sort of club or society for the celebration of the cultus. In the last resort, pure theory, philosophical theoria, entirely free from practical considerations and interference, and that is what theory is, can only be preserved and realized within the sphere of leisure. And leisure, in its turn, is free because of its relations to worship, to the cultus. And I wrote in the margins, you can't just do philosophy, you have to be philosophical. It's a silence, a pristine quietness of the soul that leads to veneration. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but the quietness of my soul is being interrupted by the loudness. Wait, I lost my train of thought entirely. Just giving yourself up to the sublime grandeur of everything worthy of veneration. And in a very real sense, everything is worthy of veneration. In this video, I'm kind of sounding like a Buddhist. Guys, in fact, I think that God himself is revealed through many different religions. And that's not to say that all religions are equal or that all...
So yeah, how to be aristocratic. I hope this lesson was edifying to you. I hope you grab some. And this is a word that I'm just thinking on always. Aristocrat. You know, that's what we're trying to just be. You know, the best to rule. The people see it, bro. People see it, bro. The heathen see it, bro. The heathen see it. Don't think that's why it's shit crazy, bro. Like the decent heathen see it. That's why you be seeing Jake it's night and day, bro. That's why I mean, I just be laughing. I mean, I always been like this, but especially as I'm becoming more perceptive, like I could just make myself laugh just thinking. But my thoughts be so vivid, and some people just hate it, and other people they love it because it's like, man, the gears are just turning. You can see the gears turning, especially when people know you're talking about something. Because sometimes you can just be laughing, and like they were trying to figure out what you're saying, you don't tell them, but they could just figure it out. Then they really fuck with you, like shorty with the long nails. And if you ask the shorty I mean, obviously you don't ask the shorty, and girls have no boundaries at the same time. So it's crazy how like white boys can say the most sexually vile stuff to them, but at work, bro, as long if you tell shorty to do your job, you're getting reported, bro. Shit is crazy. The most sexual vile, the type of shit that if a nigga said to my bitch, I'm shooting him, I'm killing them. What, the nigga said that to you at work? But you know what I mean. But especially that's just man, she just love to whip you at work, bro. That shit crazy. But yeah, like how do you wipe your ass with your nails, bro? What the fuck? Type shit. But little tangent. I hope this also was edifying. But for people who understand what I'm saying, that's yeah, I get it. This lesson was edifying. I'm on.
religions are a path to the same truth. But as C.S. Lewis would say, Christ is not just the fulfillment of Judaism. He's also the fulfillment of paganism. Pagan religions or Buddhism or Hinduism.
Yeah, so yeah, that's how I'm gonna just turn this off.